Hey there, everyone. Good morning, good noon, and good evening to you all who all are joining us globally. I am Parth Varu, Event and Program Manager for Microsoft Reactor India, and we are based out in Bangalore. Yes, before we start our today's session, let's go through our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding the differences, being kind and considerate in a way we all engage. Yes, we do encourage you all to participate to learn together. Please drop all your questions in the chat section and we'll pick it up from there. Now, I would like to bring in Reshmi, who is the host for our Azure Happy Hours. And hey, hi Reshmi, welcome to yet
Hi,
another
Pat.
episode of Azure Happy Hours.
Yes, as excited as always. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. All things are
And
time zones.
yes, and we at Reactor are very much more excited that you are now based in Bangalore, and we should plan one in-person happy hours at Reactor.
Yes, I think it's long due. It's been
Yep.
on our discussion for quite a while, but I'm more than excited. We need to make this happen. But yes, thank you so much once again for the warm welcome for Bangalore. I like
Yep.
the weather now here. I'm just getting used to the I don't know, like the differences you see on a daily basis. I am enjoying it, I would say, and more than ever, I am happy that Happy Hours is going in full throttle. So thank you so much once again, Parth, and I am super excited to announce the speaker that we have today. And this speaker, she has been with our industry for quite a while. She has a lot of knowledge
Wow.
in terms of bring it containers, bring it Kubernetes, bring it functions, bring it event driven stuff. Like we have so much to learn from her, and I'm so happy that we're doing this show. So without further ado, let us quickly invite Ramya into the call. So hi Ramya.
Hi, thanks
Hey
for
Reshmi.
having me on the show.
Yep.
Hi, Parth.
Hi.
Thank you so much. So Pat, thanks for bringing us together. And
Floor is
as
all yours.
always, yes, as always, thanks for being the root. So, Ramya, let's quickly do a introduction for the folks who are hearing you for the first time, or I'm sure you already have your fans who are also there in this call. But nonetheless, let's listen to what you have been doing in this industry and what are you working on? What is the latest gossip on Azure Functions? Anything that the audience can hear.
Sure, Ishmi. And firstly, thanks a lot for having me on the show. I think this is like a comeback for me. I've been here early this year, and yeah, it's great to be back on Reactor. And Reshmi, you're doing a great job bringing in all cool new stuff that's happening in Azure. So kudos
You
to
mean
you.
you?
Yeah, including
Yes.
topics. Right. So, to introduce myself, you've already, like Reshmi has already introduced, but yeah, I do work in Azure Functions team. My focus areas are enabling functions on Kubernetes-based environments like Azure Container Apps, AKS. I also work on event streaming triggers such as Kafka, Event Hubs, RabbitMQ, and SQL. Apart from this, my team and I also work on this OSS component called KEDA, which helps with scaling of containers in Kubernetes based on the events. So yeah, so that's about me. And thanks again, Reshmi, for inviting me to the show.
The pleasure is all ours. And I need to tell the audience right away that if you are not aware of the latest updates of KEDA, we have been growing enormously. It's an OSS effort which is driven not just by Microsoft, but as expected from the open source community. So, Ramya, maybe like we can take a quick minute and talk about the OSS contribution in KEDA and what the recent highlight has been, and then we can go to the PPT.
Yeah, that's a good call out. In fact, Reshmi, so recently KEDA has been announced as a graduated project in CNCF. Yay!
Woo!
So this is the effort of lots of folks. The KEDA maintainers have done a great job, in making sure that the component is, it's enterprise ready. We have a good number of product companies supporting KEDA, including Microsoft has been one of the primary contributor to the KEDA OSS component as such. And my team specifically works on Azure Scalars, and we're also enabling KEDA add-on as a core feature in AKS. So there's no separate installation needed. So as you provision your AKS cluster, you can just enable KEDA add-on, and it's there, and it's all ready for auto scaling the containers and pods.
Wow. So basically, in summary, what we're trying to say is like the next few months, there's going to be crucial announcements. It's going to be game changer for all the developers.
Absolutely. So as we speak, we are working hard, heads down, on bringing this KEDA add-on into GA. It's currently in public preview. So the announcement of graduation or the graduated project is a big milestone for in KEDA as such. And then now we will follow up with like cool new announcements, starting with the KEDA add-on going GA in AKS, and more to follow.
Awesome. Awesome. That sounds very exciting and promising. So with that, I think we have a good segue to start our discussion today. So shall I bring up the screen?
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to talk more about KEDA as well, along with Azure Functions.
Awesome.
So,
The floor is yours.
yeah, thanks, Reshmi. So let me first talk about, set the context here, and talk what Azure Functions is, and then uh, uh, talk about the what we are doing in the Azure Function space with respect to Kubernetes. So Azure Functions is a serverless solution, and this offers event-driven compute experience, and it allows users to write code in the language of their choice, right? So, and you can connect to services without hard coding any integrations, and this enables faster development using the triggers and bindings that comes with Azure Functions extensions. And Functions also offers that end-to-end inner loop and outer loop dev experience, and this is very very much essential for development, debugging, building, and deploying and monitoring your apps. So Function supports that, and it supports on major platforms like Linux, Windows, and Mac OS. You could build your Azure function once and deploy it to multiple destinations, right? Like managed service in Azure using one of the Azure functions hosting plans like consumption, Elastic Premium, or App Service Plan. Or you could deploy the open source functions host and runtime images into AKS, or any Kubernetes hosted in public cloud. Not just this, you could also deploy functions host images into IoT devices that are hosted on edge compute as well. So apart from this, functions can scale on demand, and you get to pay only for the time that the code is executed. So as you can see, the functions uh, allows you to maintain that less infrastructure and saves on cost, and you need not really worry about deploying and maintaining these servers to keep your applications up, right? So yeah, I'm happy to announce the public preview release of event-driven serverless Azure Functions for microservices. This has already been announced in the month of May during the Build conference, and it's a new hosting environment option that will be available. So this will enable developers to quickly build event-driven cloud-native function apps with the flexibility to run functions along with other microservices, right? Like APIs, websites, workflows, or any container-hosted programs. And Function supports these integrated programming model, as I already spoke about, right? So and you could also, Functions provides these triggers and bindings out of the box, so you could pick the language of your choice and integrate functions with other APIs or apps, and these apps could be of mixed programming languages as such. Now, coming to the cloud native experience, right? Because when we talk about containers and functions, these are very much relevant to the cloud native world. And the promise of this true cloud native experience is about managing with DevOps processes and tooling, and which is already offered by Azure Functions. So you can use the same tools and management experience that you're already familiar with when deploying these Azure Functions, and you could deploy code, the Azure Functions code, to cloud using CI/CD tooling like GitHub Actions and DevOps pipeline. And today in the demo, you're going to see things in action on how to kind of deploy functions through a CI/CD pipeline. And apart from this, you can also integrate multiple app types. For example, let's say you have a web app and a function app and an event source, and all of them could be hosted on containers, and you'll be able to integrate, build, and deploy all of them together using uh, one single arm template or a bicep template. And apart from this, you can leverage technologies like Dapper, right, which helps to weave these apps together and it enables you to build those resilient, secured system. And Dapper as such provides these best practices out of the box for distributed application development as such. So all of these goodness of Dapper can be leveraged while building microservices and integrated with other microservices as well.
Hmm.
Uh,
Let me just take a pause here and just speak my love for Azure Functions. So I know this is coming totally out of context, but I think the earlier I say it, it's better. I have been a PM for static web apps for the last 2 years, and now I have moved on to Azure Native IC services. Also, fun fact: I work with a partner which Ramya used to work before, so we have like crisscross paths multiple times. But talking about static web apps, right? Like static web apps used to have functions as our core backend support. So Azure Functions has been a very integral part of my static web apps journey. We have grown together. We have seen so much progress together, and I am really excited to see how with every passing day we are only seeing more and more functions. The best part being it is truly for the community, right? You see so many people from the community not only like wanting to develop more features for the community, but you get like such class suggestions from them to actually help enhance the whole developer experience. So I love Azure Functions. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out.
Yeah, it's kind of nostalgia for you, Reshmi. I think, like given that all the work that you have done for static web apps and static web apps been using some of the components of Azure Functions. So yeah, definitely. Like yeah, lots of options that are available for function for users. So for building this event driven or building logic apps or like no code, low code kind of apps or web apps. So you have these Azure PaaS services out there offering or bringing those services to customers to cater to their requirements and business needs, right? Um, so yeah, so the other aspect that I would like to touch upon is scaling, right? So like I mentioned, functions auto scale, so they can scale all the way to zero and become inactive, or they can scale to like dozens of containers under high load. So which means if there's no traffic for a number of minutes, the pods are scaled to zero. And when the pods are scaled to zero, so the users are not expected to pay anything, and you only pay when the containers or the function containers are actively processing requests. And this is possible using this consumption plan support that users can opt to. And the other good part of Azure Functions on Container Apps is that we're not charging anything extra for provisioning functions on container apps as such. So the functions executions are built according to the container apps that are being provisioned and executed during the active time and as per the active execution or the idle execution. And users have the option to set min replica count to like one or n, and so that these pods could run in an idle way. There's a threshold that the system has, and if it's beyond a threshold, it is considered to be active, and it is below the threshold, it is considered to be idle, and the pricing changes according to the active state of the pod.
I
So
have a quick question here, Rania. So in terms of like active and inactive, lack of words. Anyway, in case of like depending on the usage of the functions, right? Is there also a scenario or a situation wherein we see certain unused functions to be discontinued or deprovisioned, or is that something which just stays in the backside somewhere? Like, I don't know.
yeah, so as you know, functions execute because of some events, right? That trigger the function app to execute. So when there are no events, so the function scale to zero, which means there's
Mhm.
no activity that is happening, no consumption of CPU or the resources whatsoever. Now we have the platform has listeners, and this is coming from KEDA, which
Mhm.
constantly looks for events, right?
Correct.
To the service that the Azure function is connected to or configured to. So that
Mhm.
will kind of look out for these events, and once it finds that the messages are landing into a event hub or a service bus,
Mhm.
KEDA tells functions that hey, we have an event, the function has to be executed, and it brings in the function container for
Mhm.
execution.
Makes sense, yeah.
So yeah, and that's a good segue, right? Like we spoke about scaling, and this happens due to the messages, right?
Mhm.
And this is happening because of the seamless integration between functions and KEDA.
Mhm.
So and what so here the beauty of this is that you need not explicitly configure scaled objects. Like this is something that users do in the AKS world. They'll have to explicitly configure which functions deployment that needs to be provisioned and provide all the connection strings to the scaled object to enable this scaling to happen. But in
Mhm.
functions in ACA, because of the seamless integration, these are auto configured. So the
Beautiful.
yeah, it's so the scaled objects, the KEDA configuration is happening under the hood, and there's no need to explicitly configure it. And yeah, so as you can see, we are actually trying to enable users to quickly get started, right? To deploy and just focus on code and deploy on container apps as such.
Correct.
Um, yeah, so from a plan standpoint, Azure Functions supports various plans and options. So I always try to emphasize on this that deploy functions as per your business need, right? Like if you have requirements to deploy functions as containers, and these containers had to run alongside with other microservices in this mixed environment, then Azure Functions on Container Apps is the option to consider.
Correct. Yeah.
So now that I've spoke about what are the key features, what is our platform features that is powering up the platform, providing as a managed offering for our customers. I'd also like to touch upon some use cases and personas, right? That will benefit from this offering. So cloud
Mhm.
native developers, backend developers, data scientists could benefit from this offering. So they can deploy mixed workloads, right? Like functions and other microservices, and specifically use functions like say for example, the function apps need to react to some events, and these
Mhm.
events could be coming from Kafka or event hubs or service bus or storage queue. And based on these events, if the function app has to invoke another web API or a Spring Apps based APIs running in a container app environment, and if these apps need to scale on demand based on events, so yeah, this is a this offering is a good option to consider. And by leveraging the seamless integration with KEDA and function triggers and the bindings that functions offers out of the box, and you could also use the language of your choice. So if you
Mhm.
can see, right, mixed programming languages, auto scaling, and extensions and triggers and bindings that are available. So this is
Mhm.
really enabling users to kind of build that seamless integrations with Azure services and other microservices that are there in the managed environment.
Let
And
me just
then,
say this is a very cute illustration. Have been trying to zoom in and see what was happening in every room.
yeah, that's exactly what we envisioned when we were like planning for this, right? Like in an organization, there are several personas uh,
Yeah.
locating themselves in various cubicles doing all this cool stuff. So yeah, that's how
Yeah.
we try to
Pretty cute.
represent
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, so that's about reacting to these HTTP events kind of a thing. So we've also come across scenarios for web services, right? Like REST API backends with event-based execution requirements, right? Like let's say for example, there's some authentication API that needs to be triggered during login or authorization events. So HTTP triggers can be used in this scenario as such. And we've also seen customers use event-based data ingestion platforms to perform this data quality checks, right? And this is very much relevant for online retail, e-commerce or travel apps, right? Like this, like there's a lot of data coming into these type of industries, and data quality is one of the critical process that they run, and there's a lot of uh, data that's getting and they do have this data ingestion platforms, and data do come in, and there's a lot of quality checks that are happening. So and these could be event driven, right? Like whenever there is this data that landed into this ingestion platform, based on the data that's come in, for data accuracy and completeness, few jobs or process need to run. And these in turn, right, like they could invoke some ML workflows once the data is being flushed out and quality checked. So this cleansed data will can go forward to the ML workflows for the next set of training the models and so on and so forth. So Kafka triggers or Q triggers or using this continuous deployment, right, could be and also using the consumption plan where a function app scale to zero. So this combination can be kind of leveraged in this scenario. Um, and the last scenario that also I would like to touch upon is the IoT, right? Like point of sales or smart devices, which sends lots of telemetry, and this needs to be routed to other units of for processing. And these events land in event hubs or Kafka, and then functions could pick them up using this functions extension for Kafka or functions extension for event hubs. Um, and this can be and the function app running on this container app can pick them up and process them and transfer to the downstream systems. So yeah, so this is about the
Mm,
use cases.
yeah. So we just have one question right now in the chat. I was wondering maybe we can take this question right away
Yeah,
because it
absolutely.
seems very relevant to the context, right? So Savrish is asking, Azure Functions is like scheduled job where it gets executed based on an event. Is like it's basically he's asking, is that the case? And can it be used only for small and very specific requirements?
Yeah, that's a. I think, like you said, it's a very relevant question as we speak about use cases.
Yeah,
So functions can be used as a scheduled job, or it can also be used in where it gets triggered only based on events that land into storage or event hubs or Kafka. So it can be used. So scheduled jobs. So you could use a timer trigger that's available in Azure Functions, where you could actually set the schedule when the function has to be invoked on a
the
particular
cron
day or
triggers. Yeah,
weekly basis. Like yeah, it has this ncron tab Linux based expression that it supports. Like you could set your schedule like in terms of minutes, seconds, hours, week of the day, and so on and so forth. So it could be used for that, or it can actually be dynamically invoked
mm,
based on some. Let's say, for example, there is a uh, like a purchase. We'll take an online e-commerce example, right? So there's a shopping cart that got initialized by an end customer, and based on uh, the items that got landed into the shopping cart, there is some process that needs to calculate the bill, right? So this could be your Azure function, which is kind of doing that billing processing and returning the result back to the shopping cart app, saying that hey, this is your bill, and then it can scale back to zero. And as you can
yeah,
see, this is very dynamic, so you never know when this user is going to do the shopping and get their cart filled. So
yeah. So apart from these triggers, like and just continuing to the question, apart from these triggers which function supports, like you mentioned cron. I remember when we were doing static web apps, it was HTTP trigger which you just talked about. Apart from these, Kafka also adds in, not Kafka, sorry, KEDA also adds in a good scope of different kinds of triggers which we can enable, right? So is this also something which, like all the triggers which KEDA supports, do we expect those triggers to work in functions also, or is it like only after a specific integration that we do we can get them enabled?
yeah, so I'm going to first talk about in context of functions on ACA, right? So we have actually worked on like 5 triggers, like the triggers that are supported in Azure functions. So these
Mhm.
triggers are configured seamlessly with KEDA, so that based on the events, the function gets executed and the scaling is happening due to KEDA as such. But
Mhm.
KEDA offers like 60 plus scalars, like
Yeah.
so but Azure Functions today like supports predominantly Azure Services based. Uh,
Fair, fair.
it has integrations with the Azure services as such. Kafka is one such thing. It's a like a scenario where you could have your Kafka cluster um, on Confluent Cloud or on your on premise and still use Azure Functions to kind of uh, get triggered based on the topics and the
Yeah.
messages landing in the topics. And
Yeah.
RabbitMQ is another example where it's also like not RabbitMQ can be hosted on like Azure VMs or like it could be there in your on-premise, but still you could use the Azure function to kind of in
I
both.
see. Okay, so it's one of the five, is what you say.
Yeah. So the five that are supported, that's a good call out actually. I was like, so the five that are supported in container apps are like storage and storage queue and service bus, event hubs, and Kafka. Um,
Got it. Okay.
uh, yeah. So these are like the other triggers that functions support also work, but they don't scale. Uh,
Okay.
so
Okay.
the user is expected to kind of set the min replicas to some X number so that they're
Mhm.
always there and it's listening to the events and getting executed
I see.
because
Okay.
of lack of
Okay.
the KEDA integration. So we are working on this. Like as we progress, we're currently in public preview. Like I mentioned as we started the session, so we're moving towards GA and beyond, and yeah, so we'll bring in that parity that Azure Functions supports out of the box along with scaling.
Makes sense, yeah. I think like if towards the end, like if we can also share to our viewers on the good resources they can access all these information from, that would be really helpful. I believe we already have shared it in the CTA in the chat as well. There is a question from Sandeep asking if it's supported in India region. I am a little confused, Sandeep, if this question is specifically for KEDA or we are talking about functions. I'm not sure. But Ramya, why don't you answer for all of them actually?
So currently, we like if we are talking about like Azure Functions as a service supports all of the regions that Azure has today, right? And
Yeah.
so specific to Azure Functions on ACA, it is supported in some 9 regions, and we have documented them in our doc, so you could go check out. And yeah, as we progress, we will enable it in various other Azure supported regions as well. But like from a globally, like we're well covered, like Australia and Europe and America, the major regions here are being like we are there. Like you could provision this functions resource in one of these continents, Azure regions.
Yeah. Awesome. Sandeep, I hope that answered your question. I think we have been getting a constant stream of questions. Now we can definitely cater some more time to it. So let's probably dive deeper. Maybe diving deeper can also help answer a few questions. So, Ramya, back to you.
Yeah, sure, definitely, Rishmi. As we like move forward and we like showcase a lot of like we're plan like I just plan to do a live demo about like how to provision functions and things like that. So more features
Yeah.
might get more clearer. So yeah,
Correct.
I think it's a good segue to kind of go to the demo zone. So
Yep. Let
yeah,
me bring up the screen. So, do we want to do the code demo first, or do we want to show the create resource flow first?
yeah, I think all of us are fans of visualizing things and probably like viewing things in Azure Portal first, right? Like
Yeah.
when we are
Yeah.
checking out. So, so yeah, I want to like first like go through the Portal way of deploying the function app, right?
Yes. Let's go for
So
it.
yeah, so this is a create function app experience in Azure Portal. So I'm going to show you how to deploy Azure Functions on container apps and what are the features that are available and options you need to choose to provision this particular offering.
Mhm.
So yeah, so go to a home function app and go to the create function app things. Choose a subscription and then resource group. I'm going to choose an existing resource group and provide a name. Uh, and then because we are going to deploy this as a container, right? So we have to like it's recommended to choose container image as the option for deployment and then choose a region. So East US is one of the 9 regions that functions on container app supports. So you could choose that. And then from a hosting standpoint, choose the Azure Container Apps Environment Plan. So this surfaces the container apps environment options as such. So here you can either choose an existing um, container apps environment or you could create a new container apps environment. So I'll quickly show how to like create a new container app environment. So you give a name and then choose a plan. So either consumption and dedicated workload profiles. So container apps environment supports both dedicated deployments and or scale to zero serverless deployments as well. So you could pick one, and then you could also pick the zone redundancy as per your choice, and pick the monitoring option here. And finally, from a networking standpoint, you could either bring your own virtual network, or and then this could be a public VNet or a private VNet, right? You could create here, and if it's a public VNet that you want to inject these resources to, you would choose external. If it's a private VNet, you would choose an internal. So functions on container apps currently supports public VNet injection. Like yeah, we are. It will be like a couple of months down the line. You should see the internal option being enabled as well. So it's coming up soon. So that's about creation of apps environments. It's pretty straightforward. So I'll go ahead and uh, choose an existing container apps environment, right? And then proceed to next. And yeah, so storage is one of the prerequisite for creating a function app, whether it is public Azure Functions or container apps. So we'll choose one, and then choose an app insight. So this is essential to monitor your function apps. So we could choose we'll leave it to the defaults, or you could create a new app insights environment, app insights instance as such. And then from a deployment standpoint, so here is a place where you would actually define the container image that you want to deploy to the container apps environment. So we have a quick start image experience, and this is like a new experience that we have introduced in Azure Functions as such. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But from images standpoint, you could either bring your public image, like the code which is containerized and pushed to either a Docker registry or a Azure Container Registry, or any container registry that you're that it is which is accessible. You could choose according to the type, right? Like whether it's a private or a public, and then provide the URL here. So this will enable functions to kind of pull the image from that specific registry and provision it as a container. So if it's a private registry, you are expected to kind of give us the credentials to access that registry as well. So for this demo, I'm gonna use a quick start image because, like I mentioned, this is a new experience that we have introduced. So this will actually it's a HTTP trigger. It's a HTTP trigger, and it's going to get the function app is going to be like provisioned and readily available once this function gets deployed successfully.
So basically, quick start image is pretty much like a quick start template which we see in the tutorials, right? Like everything is already preset as the foundation layer. We can just work on it, whatever we want to customize.
Yes. So
Wow.
this yes. Um, so this is a publicly available image, so users can pull it and probably customize it. But this is a little different from a quick start code sample where you could provision it and change it and again deploy it. It's not that way. So this image is like a image which is available in this. I'll probably click on create while this goes. So this image, so this is the image path where it's available, and you're free to kind of pull it and deploy it into the container apps. But we
So
do
it
have
works as a testing ground, is it? Like we just want to
yes,
test and see how the service works.
exactly. It's just a testing ground. You're just trying to like deploy it and see how the container app is getting provision, and that's it. If you really want to like try out, we have this core tools templates, right?
Okay.
Like you could use the Azure Funk core tools to kind of generate these HTTP templates, and we have an option like a Docker option. Like you Funk in a Docker, if you do, it generates
Uh-huh.
and you could pick the trigger template of your choice, and
Okay.
this is going to create the Docker file and the HTTP trigger and the language of your choice, where you have to just build it and push it to a registry and give that image URL as an input to functions on container apps.
Oh, I see. Okay. But that is customizable compared to what we are seeing
Yes,
right now.
yes, because
Wow.
there we are directly interacting with the code, and then we are building it and pushing it. So you're actually
Got
working
it.
with the raw artifacts. So here it's like it's already the code is already containerized and pushed to the container registry.
Understood. Yeah. Cool.
So
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Timing.
that yeah, we had a good chat about, like, the quick start experience. Good timing there, Reshmi.
Yeah.
This also helped to kind of get this resource created. So yeah, yeah, the resource is deployed, and so under the functions, as you can see, there's this HTTP example. So that's a quick start image that got deployed, and you could click on that, and then uh, copy the function URL, right,
Mhm.
and paste it in your browser, and that's it. The HTTP trigger is running successfully. So
Perfect. Is there a way we can check it on the other end as well? Like right now we hit the UPI and we know that the trigger has worked. Is there a way we can also check using maybe like metrics or graphically to see if there is some sort of transaction that happened?
oh yeah, absolutely. So as you remember, we have actually enabled app insights, right? So you could
Correct.
go to
Yeah.
app insights and uh, see that the function got invoked, and you have this request chart where you could actually see that once the URL has been invoked, you could see that the function is getting uh, okay. See, this is the
Yeah.
request
That's
list file.
correct. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, being able to monitor both this side and that side that the trigger is working helps for the person who is testing it out for the first time. At this point of time, like at least in my personal opinion, I have the confidence and faith of Azure Functions, but it's always best to do a 2i 3i check. So this helps a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point, Reshmi, because as we deploy, it gives us confidence that yes, this is being successfully deployed and it's working. You're getting to invoke it, and you see that live in your charts that yeah, the function is working and it's getting executed. So yeah, these are all these small tests that you do as you
Yeah.
build code and deploy them.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
beautiful. Now what do we have next? So now we have created the resource.
So this is just a beginning, okay? So this gets even better. So as you like, it's a small use case that we have seen. So now I'm going to show how to deploy functions onto this app environment, and also deploy another microservice that interacts with function app and see all of these things working together. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, so moving on to the slide, I just want to set context about, like, to just show a view about what I'm about to show here.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, just- okay. I think there is. I may have to reshare, Reshmi. Would that be okay?
Yeah, yeah, no worries. Yeah. Meanwhile, we do have a good stream of questions coming in from the chat. I think
Yeah.
for the ones which probably do not require screen sharing, maybe we can start with them. So there is one question from Sumit, which is asking how to edit and modify the function inside the container image you have deployed, like for a container image which you have already deployed. How do you edit and modify the function?
Yeah. So, so there are multiple ways that you could do this. So, if you're, let's say there is a function that is locally available, and you're making changes to that. So every time you make a change, you're required to build that image and push that image to the registry, so that the latest changes are being applied to that particular image, and it gets deployed and it works. So this is like a manual way, right? Like you could use
Mhm.
GitHub Actions or Azure pipelines, right? Like you could use GitHub code spaces, and modify your code, and then the pipeline would get executed. And I'm going to show that as well, where it's going to build and push it to the container registry and deploy it to Azure containers.
Mhm.
So that's an automated way. So you could either use a deployment pipeline to kind of constantly make changes and test your code, or you could have like a local thing which you could do manually as well.
Awesome. There is another question from Tim. Okay, it's Tirumalish asking how to scale the functions using KEDA. I think that should be a part of the demo, right?
Yes, that's part of the demo, and I must say that you need not do anything to scale. It it happens automatically.
Yeah,
So
I think the A in KEDA stands for that, does it?
yeah, auto scaling, that's true, but in functions it's like you need not even configure your scaled objects. uh,
I see. Yeah, I think Tirumalesh, you probably have to wait a bit more. We are going to soon see it live, and once Ramya gives me the green signal, we will be seeing the rest of the demo. So that should be a good one. Cool. We do have a couple more questions, but I wanted to do a quick check with you. How are we? Do you need more time? Should I bring more questions in?
yeah, I think we can take another question, so the
Okay.
slides are getting refreshed.
Okay. So there's this big question which Sabresh has asked. I think it's majorly in and around how we are doing security in the whole aspect. So Sabresh says, as you said, the beauty of Azure function is serverless. It's the real power where we don't need to worry about deployment and maintaining the function. How about the security aspect of Azure function?
So that's a again glad that we're having this. This question came up, and security is a very broader term. There are several things, like from private VNet, like deploying it into a secured VNet, to managed identity, to Azure policy, so that you set up policies where only certain, from an access standpoint, like like which RBAC users can access this, or which VNets should these resources be deployed to. So these are all some of the areas, right? So, and then functions as well, right? Like HTTP triggers supports anonymous, or you could have uh, keys that you could upload, and only after the keys get the secrets get matched, then only the HTTP trigger gets executed as such. So these are like some of the ways that you can make your app secure. So private VNet is something that we are already working on, and it's in the works, and it could come out very soon. Same is the case with managed identity, where you could bring in you could use user based managed identity, or an AD based Azure AD based credentials to talk to deploy your function apps, or and the functions being when the functions are interacting with other services. So that's in the works, and that's coming out soon, by end of this year. um, and Azure policy is something that functions on container apps already supports, and functions as such already support. Like you could define Azure policies, and it works. And for functions on container apps, so all the policies that are supported for container apps environment works well. But very specific to functions resource is something that it we can validate it once the managed identity and private VNet features are available. So it's a thing that follows these both.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that detailed answer. I hope, Shabrish, that answered your question, but if not, feel free to drop a follow up question in the chat. And meanwhile, I'm guessing that Ramya is good to start again.
Yes, I'm all set.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. Back to you then.
Yes. So I'm about to showcase a use case where the function gets invoked whenever there is a message that is landing into the service bus queue, which is called uppercase. So this queue essentially is a service bus based queue, and whenever I'm talking about the leftmost thing here, I'll talk about the rightmost in a bit, but just focus on the leftmost area where we have a function app that is deployed to a container app environment, and then it has been triggered if whenever there is a message that lands into a service bus queue. So this service bus based function app trigger service bus trigger function app is deployed into a container app environment, and it is subscribed to it. So now let's go to the VS code. I'll show you the code on how this function app uh, is being built.
Yeah. This is the action time, guys. super
Yes, yes.
excited.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So we have a function app called, so it's a service bus function app that I mentioned. So
Hmm.
this is, um, yeah. So this is a function app which gets triggered, and it is actually uh, subscribed to at the uppercase service bus queue, and this is the connection. So this is being configured at host or local settings at the moment. But once we deploy this function app into container apps environment, we will set the app settings, the function app settings. With the connection string, and that will help with this function getting connected to the queue as such, right? So now let's see how to deploy this. So all you need, so this function app, by the way, is already containerized. um, uh, right, this has been containerized, and it is built using Docker and pushed to a Docker hub, right? So after the this is pushed to a Docker hub, an image URL is being generated, and that can be used to now create the function app, right? So to create the function app, all you need is, you could use like as you deploy your function apps using az function app create, the same command is being used. The only difference is that you have to give the environment name here. That's the differentiating thing, like, which is not there in the public Azure functions. So because this is the environment where the function is getting deployed to, and then the image URL of the container registry has to be provided, and that's it. So once this has been executed, the function app gets provisioned, and uh, on the container apps environment as such. So like I mentioned, so the connection string is very important to talk to the service bus queue, right? So for that, we use az function app config app settings. So this here we actually set Azure web job service bus. This is the app setting that is needed. um, so where we give the connection string here, so that is going to be like once you provision this on container apps, so this connection string is being used here to connect to the function app as such. So so this is being deployed. So there is another way to deploy function apps, right, using Azure Developer CLI, so which is called AZD in short. So AZD is an open source tool, and it provides a faster way to build apps for the cloud, right? And it also has some developer friendly commandlets as such. So it's very simple. So all you have to do is there is this template that I've already created that I would like to show. So it's all like template based. So this before I show this thing in action, there are a few templates that I want to kind of emphasize on. So this has a directory called infra, right? So this has a function.bicep. So what happens is this is all infra as code, right? And this is needed to provision the Azure resources, and these are extensible, and you can customize it as per your use case, right? So the function.bicep will essentially have all the infra as a code to deploy your environment, because environment is a prerequisite for deploying the function app, and we have seen that in Portal as well. So you create the environment, and you define that deployment in this template. You also define the deployment of function app insights, and storage. And so as you can see here, we so the resource, it's a bicep template. So the syntax is, the format is in the bicep uh, semantics. So this is the environment that gets created, and then this is the function app and the respective bicep template that is there. And it is referring to the storage and app insights, and we have bicep semantics defined for app insights. App insights needs a log analytics workspace, so we create that and then refer to this, and then the Azure storage as well. And so the good part of this is you have to just or like I'll be sharing the GitHub link. So all you have to do is just clone the GitHub repo, and you will get this AZD templates into your local, or you could go to the code spaces, leverage that, and just update your main.parameters.json with the image URL, right? The functions container image URL. That's it. So it has this thing called API image. So you'll have to initialize that. And once you do that, all you have to do is do a AZ environment new. So you are actually creating a new environment. This is again not the container apps environment, it's the AZD environment. So you say AZD env new, which essentially creates a ask prompts you for a new uh, environment name. And after this, all you have to do is give AZD up. So AZD up is going to ask you for your subscription and uh, the location where the function app needs to be provided or provisioned. And once you provide them, it is going to initiate the deployment. So this is going to take care of provision all the Azure resources that are needed, and all the prerequisite. It'll create them and also deploy the function app as well.
So this time when it's deploying the function app, it's not only deploying the function, is it also creating the whole container app environment and everything else that we already put in the bicep?
Exactly. Yes.
Awesome. Nice. So it's basically bringing down like multiple steps down to just one step.
Yes. So it
And
comes up
it
with,
happens very quickly as well.
yeah, it's actually under 2 minutes. Yeah.
Impression. I'm sure even if you're trying to do this in Portal, it's going to take more than that. It's definitely not going to be under 2 minutes. Just
Yeah,
jumping
and
around creating resources.
exactly, and it includes creation of app environments and app insights and storage and all of the prerequisite.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. And I think like visually also it's giving that satisfaction that things are happening, because you can like, even though it's in the command line, you can see that things are being check marked. There is a certain progress bar which shows that there's something which is happening. I think that that definitely gives a lot of relief for a developer, because they know for a fact that it's not stuck, something's not broken, things are still happening. So I like that. I think even for static web apps, we worked on this CLI called SWA CLI, and we tried integrating the same features over there so that the developer is happily coding, knowing that things are going there.
Yes, so we are trying to create that abstraction so that user is only giving the inputs that are needed to provision this, and the infra
Correct.
part is taken care.
Correct, yeah. And the core templates and all you were talking about earlier, right? And even over here, when you mentioned about the EZD templates, do we have like very handy links which we can share with the viewers today so that they can just quickly jump there, check out the templates, and maybe clone whatever they feel like?
Yeah, absolutely. So Azure Functions for Azure Container Apps GitHub repo is the place, and you go to samples. Yeah, I think that's a good segue again. So while this is happening, we could go to the portal. So as you can see, there is a link, a portal link that has been shared here, right? So
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
you go there and actually check the progress of this deployment. Okay.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So it's connected to your portal as well. So
Yeah, so basically the portal link shows the screen that we were seeing earlier when we were creating the function, right? Like your deployment is
yes.
in progress.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, so to your question, right? Yeah. So we have Azure Functions on Container Apps samples folder has AZD templates.
Mhm.
Apart from this, awesome AZD templates is another place where you could find these AZD templates for like container apps, functions, app service, static web
Uh-huh.
apps. So you have these ready templates. All you have to do is just give those environment name, and it provisions like how we saw here.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. I'm glad that there is a lot of steps making like life easier for the developer to start quickly doing their coding. So I can see that we are done with the creation. So
Yeah.
wow, 3 minutes and 4 seconds. That's not bad. I wouldn't say it's bad. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, like previously it was like under 1 minute, so I was like keeping another minute and said like, yeah, it would just definitely be under 2 minutes. But I think the subsequent, it has created a new environment. Maybe that's adding to another minute. But once your
Possibly.
environment is created, the subsequent ones are like cached, so it would not create your resource group and all of that. So only the functions are being created, and that would be pretty faster.
Mm, mm. Awesome. So I think we are good with that. Do we want to jump back to the demo? Sorry, to the slides.
Uh, yes. So we'll go to the portal, and
Okay.
so this is the Azure Functions on Container App samples ADD templates that users can
Ah, right.
and look at, and
Yeah.
so and we can also see the function app that got created using the AZD deploy. So it actually takes you directly to the resource group and gives you, like, hey, these are all the resources that I've just created, right? And you could click on your function app, and yeah, the naming conventions is totally like user can come up with, you know and here is the function that it got created, and it is again I've deployed a HTTP trigger. It's similar to the previous one that I've showed. So you can take the URL and execute it as such.
Mm, nice. Awesome. Whew.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a very power packed demo, I must say that. We saw way too many things happening together. Cool. So, if we have space, there is this one question which I would like to bring up now. Or if you have like a flow which you would like to complete, we can do that and then jump to the question.
Yeah, we can take the question, and probably we can go to the slide. I think we're running, right? Like we just have 2 minutes left, is it?
Yeah, it's okay. I think we're doing good because everyone who's watching it is keenly interested in knowing what is happening next. So I think we're good. But yes, we can jump to the question and then we can go back to the parts we were mentioning. I think this again is probably something which you might have to help offline, if not right now. But PK is asking if there is a demo for Azure pipelines for functions.
Absolutely, that was exactly what I was about to show. So the screen that you're seeing is the demo of GitHub Actions, and so you could it's pretty straightforward. All you need to do is define your main.yaml, and just provide these inputs like function app name and the registry details. And apart from this, you could also there's another important requisite that is needed. That's the from a security standpoint, you have to mention the keys, right? The secrets
Mhm.
to the registry and Azure as such. The reason we need this is because what the GitHub Actions would do is it would connect to Azure
Mhm.
and deploy the functions resource onto Azure. So for that, it needs a secret. So that's what we are saving here, and I have the list of we actually have the guidance on how to generate these RBAC credentials. It's actually Azure AD Service Principal creation. It's just one easy CLI command that you have to execute, and it gives you the RBAC credentials that you have to upload it here. And then the GitHub Actions also need to talk to the registry, right, to pull the
Mhm.
image,
Mhm.
build the image, push the image, and pull the image. So for that, it
Right.
needs registry credentials. So the user is expected to also create these registry password and username, right? And that's it. Like you make a change to your code, right? Um, like let's say a new test message and commit your change, and that's it. So this will trigger your GitHub action. So this is we have just updated the service bus example.cs, so it triggered the pipeline. So this is going to build and deploy to Azure Functions.
So when it does the build and deploy, we are also saying that it's updating the image in the registry. So wherever that functions is using the image, every source gets updated.
Yes. So we just made a code change. It's going to build it, uh, and it will containerize it and push it to the container registry, and
Mm.
then deploy it to the Azure functions. So this is an existing resource. So that's
Right.
the prerequisite for pipelines, right? Like it doesn't do a resource from scratch creation.
Mm.
Maybe there is a way, but like typically, like I've created a resource earlier and then I'm deploying it to the same resource because it's an
Understood.
update that is happening. We are not doing a create.
Mm. Fair. But yeah, maybe in future there is some sort of scope to bring that also together. We never know.
Yeah,
It's exactly what the audience asks. So
Yeah, absolutely. Customers come first, their requirements come first.
Yeah. Awesome. So I think we are pretty much on time only. We did address all the questions as well. So Ramya, however we want to do the conclusion, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be good to switch back to the slide. Um,
On it.
so I want to just emphasize on, hey, there's so many plans that functions provides. Like, hey, what to choose? You must be wondering, right? Like, hey, when do I use which Azure Functions hosting plan? If you're not wondering if it's still okay, but I just want to provide that, use consumption plan, the Azure Functions consumption plan, which is optimized for like scale to zero and event driven, like native function apps as such. So we have Azure Functions Elastic Premium Plan. It is ideal for workloads running continuously. So this offers event-based scaling and network isolation. And we also have App Service Plan. Right, so this is for fully isolated, dedicated environment. It is suitable for workloads that need large queues, or if you want to co-locate web apps and function apps together in a dedicated environment, then that's your option. And finally, use Azure Functions for container apps if you want to run functions along with other microservices, APIs, or other container based uh, workloads as such. So, yeah, so we are actively working on. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Rashmi.
No, 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 nothing. I was just saying that it's great to have so many options wherein you can just like choose one. I know I've been in the same boat wherein you see multiple options and it's very narrow a margin as to decide which offer you want to select. But this kind of guidance that you have shared, that really helps, especially for the folks who are just beginning in this whole Azure journey. So they can start carefully, they can try it out, and then they move to the next thing. So thanks for sharing that information.
Yeah, you're welcome, Reshmi. Um, so yeah, I get this question asked too often, like most of the forums. So I thought it's better to put it out there.
Yeah.
Um, and we're also actively working on bringing these new capabilities. Like I've talked about some, and Dapper integration with functions. Dapper extension for functions is coming out soon. It's optimized for functions on ACA, right? Private VNet, managed identity will follow soon. So you can deploy functions on container apps using EasyCLI, ARM, Bicep templates, Portal, AZD, CI/CD tools like GitHub Actions and Azure Pipelines. And there was a question regarding Azure Pipelines. So the Azure Functions GitHub repo has samples for Azure Pipelines too. So do check out. And we are bringing in more tooling capability like VS Code and Terraform as well. So yeah, check out all these services that are there, the features especially in this service that are available. Let us know what you think. Give us your feedback, and you could post them in our GitHub repo. We are closely monitoring it. I think we're going to share those links in our show notes, right, Reshmi?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. So all the links which has been shared has a space in the show notes. So you should be able to see all the CTS over there. We have already, for the ones who are watching the show right now, they're already getting it while they watch in the comments. But other than that, Ramya, like if people have more questions and they want to learn more or do more with functions, how can they reach you, or how do they reach the functions team?
oh yeah, definitely. So for functions on container app specific, like check out the GitHub repo and post your questions on the issues tab, right, in the GitHub repo. Or yeah, you could also post your questions in Azure Functions GitHub repo as such under the issues
Uh-huh.
thing. So that's been monitored as well. And we do have community stand-ups happening every month, and this happens for Azure Functions. So yeah, do check out all the latest and greatest product updates are being announced there. So um,
That
and
that's
reactor
really
sessions, yes.
Of course, yes. But none other than that, we would definitely love to hear more from you all on how did you like the topic we discussed today, the whole concept of functions and container apps, how we are working on event-driven enablement, and how can we improve the developer experience. So there is a survey form which we have uploaded, we have shared in the chat, as well as it's being aired in the screen right now as we speak. So please feel free to take some time out, check out the survey, please answer the questions and help us improve the product, and help Ramya and the rest of the functions PM celebrate the fact that they're delivering something which people are actually wanting. So thank you once again, everyone who has been through the show today. Thank you so much, Ramya, for walking us through everything. I think there's final question, which I would like to have Parth on the screen. Parth, do we have you? Yes, I think we're having
So
Parth.
I am
Hi.
sharing the link. I'm sharing the link to the Reactor page, and there is where we post all our events. You can attend the in-person events and register yourself and attend in-person events for the Reactor
Awesome.
Bangalore. Yep.
Awesome. I think the link that you've shared is just open for everyone, is it? Like I don't see it specific to Bangalore. But yeah, I'm sure like you should
Yeah,
be able
it's open
to
to everyone, and then they have the tabs to go to Reactor
filters, right?
Bangalore, and then yeah, yep.
Correct, yeah. But Sabrish, if you're planning on going for a session, please do let us know. Maybe if Parth or I can drop by, we can definitely meet as well. So thank you so much
Sure.
once again, everyone who has made
Thank you.
this talk very entertaining and made happy hours happen one day early on Thursday. But it was really great to have you all. Thank you so much, Ramya, once again. I'm sure we would love to hear more from you as and when we hear more from Functions team. And for the rest of you, happy coding. Talk to you all soon.
Happy. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.